The actual is limited, but the possible is immense. You weld out a whole vessel, and then you got to cut a bunch of it out because there was a mistake.
I'd love to say we never have done that before, but that would
Right.
be lying.
What if we could stop it 1 minute after the mistake happened instead of 2 days after the mistake happened?
Welcome back to Forged in Focus, the podcast where we dive deep into the issues shaping the future of American manufacturing. I'm your host, John Ward. Today, we're joined by Andy Soprano at Lincoln Electric, a company that's been at the heart of welding and fabrication for more than a century. We're going to talk about their mission to strengthen the skilled trades, how they're attracting and training the next generation of welders, and the cutting edge technologies redefining the future of the craft. Andy is the director of OEM sales and brings a world of knowledge to the table. I'm really excited for this conversation, so let's dive in. Well, Andy, welcome. I'm so glad you're here today and really look forward to our conversation ahead.
Great. I'm really happy to be here with you, John. This should be really good conversation.
Yeah. Well, listen, I want to go ahead and get the elephant out of the room, in the room, on the floor. Let's beat it up a little bit. What was it like growing up in Philly with the last name Soprano?
It's really funny because when I was a kid growing up, like you said, it's right when The Sopranos was launched.
Oh, yeah.
And so I grew up as Anthony Jr., if you know that character, was about the same age as I was. So there's a lot of similarities in the family, and so there's a lot of jokes, a lot of fun. But everybody knows who I am. Everybody remembers my name, so that makes it a pretty good thing. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
pretty cool for sure.
I love it. I love
A
it.
little other piece of information that you probably don't know, John, is a lot of my family is from North Jersey as well. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of interesting connections there when you start looking at that part of the world. Really cool. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of money, and we didn't grow up, in waste management. But it's been good. But it's been fun. It's been fun.
Well, hey, I can say, man, I interviewed a soprano,
Yeah,
right? You know?
exactly.
Oh, that's
Exactly.
great. That's
So,
great. Well, listen, I want to dive into the mission and strategy of Lincoln Electric a little bit. So, if you could take a few moments and describe the core mission for Lincoln Electric around supporting the skilled trades, and how does workforce development really fit into the long-term strategy at Lincoln?
yeah, sure. I guess first, I've been with Lincoln almost 18 years now. So I've been with Lincoln since I came straight out of engineering schools. It's been a great ride for me. Lincoln has been a fascinating company as we've evolved. So we're celebrating 130 years this year.
It's incredible.
It's incredible as a U.S. manufacturer. And one of the things that's really driven us is that mission or that mission statement. And so one of the things that Lincoln really prides itself in is developing solutions for our customer bases. And when you talk about solutions, that's not just product, that's not just welding consumables or machine, but it's the whole solution. That includes people. That includes that workforce development and finding new and alternative ways for people to manufacture. And so that's something that's core to our business. It's in our mission statement about making our customers better and bringing that solution to them. And we look at it as if our customer base, if your company or somebody else's company succeeds, then we succeed, and we rise together. So it's kind of that all rising tides raise all boats type of
Yes. No,
uh,
that's great.
so, when we look at workforce development, Lincoln's had a massive presence in the school systems for a long time. We've got a lot of investment in there and stuff like Skills USA, along with running the longest continuously operating weld school in the U.S. So we've got a large weld school that trains that trade. Um, and then we also continue to develop new technologies and new ways to support that industry. So we're tied in very tight with the American Welding Society and many other companies over the last, really my whole career and even before me. And I expect that to continue as we go forward. As the future of our business is really tied to welders and new welders.
Yeah, it's something we've always appreciated watching from the sidelines of how much you guys do invest into the skilled trades and education and bringing folks into the welding industry. So we can't thank you guys enough. When I was talking to my wife this morning coming in, she said, "Oh, who you having on the podcast today?" And I said, "Oh, it's Andy with Lincoln Electric." And she paused and said, "How did Lincoln Electric get the name Lincoln Electric if they're into welding?" And I
Uh,
kind of scratched my head a little bit and I said, "Huh, I'm going to ask Andy because I'm not sure."
Yeah, yeah. So it's a fascinating story, and I'd advise you and anybody listening. There's a bunch of books out there as well on the history of Lincoln, so you certainly can read about it. But Lincoln was started by two brothers, so with the Lincoln last name, here in Northeast Ohio, and they originally started making electric motors. So this is back, again, 130 years ago, making electric motors, and only a few years after that, they realized that all their motors were being used to make welding equipment or be put into welding equipment. So that's really what got them into starting to make welding equipment and filler metal. And we ran a motor division for quite a long time that we sold off, about 30 years ago. So we're no longer in the motor business, but we did run that for a long time. So ultimately, that name stuck. You may see some of our marketing stuff has has Lincoln welders in it, but Lincoln Electric is the core, and that's the story behind it.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's neat. That's a neat story. Well, now I can go home and tell her about it,
there you
which will
go.
be fantastic. So, attracting the next generation, what ways are you guys reaching out to try to attract that next generation, especially high school, middle school students into welding and other skilled trades?
Yeah, so we're doing everything kind of humanly possible. We're constantly working with social media, podcasts, and really every other type of media that is consumed at this point by that younger generation. So we have a large online presence through social media. We work with a lot of influencers. So you may see us on a TV show, or you may see the trades being promoted on Instagram or any of those types of medias. So we're really trying to drive the message to the younger generation that this is not your grandfather's industry. This is not working in the steel mill. It's not dirty. It's not dingy. It's high tech. It's cool. It's a lot of neat technology. And so that's really what you see us bringing to that younger generation. Even as far as doing reach outs, where our local teams and our global teams are working just with an individual school and promoting kind of career day. We produced a piece of marketing literature a few years back that had this job tree, and it showed all the things you can do if you start with a trade like welding, and all the way.
I remember seeing that. That was great.
So trying to really bridge that gap from, that trades and welding are dirty and only for a certain, type of individual, and really saying you can do just about anything with that trade. So that's definitely
And
a huge focus for
you
us.
can have a phenomenal career. I mean, to support your family, it really can take you in a lot of great directions. Now, how low in the school system do you go? Do you guys reach out to the middle school? Do you guys go down to elementary, or do you kind of
Uh,
stick at the high school level?
we find we do get down to the middle school levels
Mhm.
some. It really depends on the school system and do they have a support structure for that. So we are starting to see trades and shop class coming back a little bit,
Mhm.
and so as that's being brought back, that's in that middle school or early high school age group. So as that happens, we're going to continue to support it. I don't think we're getting down in elementary schools just yet, but I can imagine we will get there eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're seeing a great little renaissance in the trades right now. I feel, the cost of college and universities has risen so much that when people start weighing the degree I'm going to get with the cost that's going to take to get that degree, a lot of folks are just leaning towards the trades right now. So we're kind of excited. We're trying to do our part as well, but we really appreciate what you guys are doing on that national level and getting that outreach out there. You talked about a little bit of training, apprenticeship programs. You guys got a very large weld shop. Talk about some of the main training programs that you guys do offer as far as apprenticeships, co-ops, trade school partnerships, things like that.
Yeah, so we at Lincoln, we operate a very large manufacturing facility here in Northeast Ohio and a couple around the globe. Um, we continue to invest heavily in this space. So just like every other manufacturer, we have a need for lots of employees and continue to upskill those employees. So we have everything from high school internship, follow a mentor type roles, all the way through regular internships. We do a apprentice program. And then we even just do basic, come off the street, you hire into Lincoln, and we do some very basic level training. One of the things we've had to invest in heavily, and it's gone really, really positively, is basic manufacturing training. We've got some internal names for it, but ultimately, um, if you go back 20 or 30 years, every person who came in a shop, I'm sure you remember this, John, they knew how to use a screwdriver. They knew how to use tools. That's not always the case. That's not being taught in shop class. But, I had shop class in high school. There's a lot of people who don't have that anymore. So we're implementing that into that orientation. So as part of orientation, if needed, you're getting trained up on, some of the basic tools. How do you be in a manufacturing? How do you do it safely? And that's probably one of the other pieces I would share is, we're trying to continue to drive that safety piece as well. And we're really talking around that as around engineering safety. So not telling people to be safe, but making it safe, making it so
Yes.
they have to be safe. And that has really turned things around for us, where people want to be here because it's a safe and good environment for them to be in.
Yeah, I remember when I toured your facility a year and a half ago,
Mhm.
I could feel that.
Yeah.
And I could feel that in your culture, which was phenomenal. Really, really appreciated seeing that and feeling it, walking the halls there at Lincoln Electric. Well, out of all the programs that you've kind of touched on there, have you seen one of them start to grow more over the years?
Yeah, so we've probably the apprenticeship program has really grown a lot, and then on the non-trade side is the internship
Okay.
program.
Yeah.
So I know we're focused here talking about trades, but the internship side, when you talk about the engineering and the other pieces, which is equally challenging to get all those people that we
Oh,
need,
yeah.
um, that internship program where we have great retention when we get them in at sophomore, junior, senior year and see the culture, see what you experienced, see what I live every day. That's gone really well. On the trade side, yeah, that apprenticeship program has worked really, really well. We've had a lot of success, even in just upskilling. So we allow for our employees to go to weld school, to upskill.
Oh, that's
uh,
neat. Yeah.
so there's a gentleman who I've known for quite a long time who started as one of our security officers. And he's now upskilled to the point now where he's teaching weld training and doing other things like that. So to be able to change where they want to go with the company supporting them is really gone over really well and been a great way for us to upskill people within the business into those trades.
That's very neat. That's really cool. So while I was there, I remember walking through your WTTC, which is your Welding Technology and Training Center. Explain a little bit about that because it was eye opening to me. I thought it was just a wow.
Yeah,
Walking around, seeing what you guys are doing, it was really, really cool. And talk about the different career pathways it offers and types of credentials that come from that training center.
sure. Yeah. So, as you mentioned, WTTC was a large investment Lincoln made back in 2018 is when it opened. And so, like I said earlier, we've had the longest continuously running weld school in the country, and that facility was smack dab in the middle of our plant. Which is not a great environment to necessarily learn and then especially bring others people in. So our CEO at the time made a decision that He wanted to move that school into its own building, its own facility, and we took that opportunity to invest extremely heavily into further into the trades and further into education. And so we took all these different pieces around our business and really kind of consolidated them into that facility. And really, what that facility brings is everything around technical training and supporting our customers and the industry. So we've got everything in that facility from basic weld training, where you can go to weld school, you can get a degree or a certificate for any discipline of welding that you're interested in. We offer CWI classes for lots of different continue education classes for instructors, for business owners. So just everything really around welding that we can provide our knowledge to the industry. And then we also kind of have a half the other side of the building is around supporting our customer base. And so that's training our customers how to do things better, utilize technology, and upskill themselves. So we kind of took it from two different approaches, but ultimately around how do we upskill the industry.
Yeah, very, very cool story, and love seeing that building. So when students transition from the training center, do you guys have an opportunity for them to go full-time work with you or to find them jobs? How does that work?
Yeah, so both. Obviously, if there's positions open in our factory, we certainly try to fill them with people. But we do have a job placement team. I will tell you, as I think you're probably aware, John. People coming out of school are pretty easy to find jobs right now if you're well trained and Lincoln's got obviously a great name in the industry for that training. So we tend to have everybody placed pretty quickly. I would tell you that I deal again more on the sales side and the commercial side, and I have constant customers going, "Hey, when you guys have a class coming out, just let me know. I'll come up. I want to recruit." So we've done a few different career days and that type of stuff, but it's been really good. We've good placement. Everybody in the area tends to poach as quickly as they can. We tend to be people from the area,
Yeah.
but we do have people that travel in from outside the area to go to the Lincoln Electric School. So some of them return home, some of them stay, and we have a whole team that supports that. And I think we're constantly being pushed. Can we do more? Can we train more people? And we try not to compete with the community colleges and the local colleges, technical colleges, really because that's their business and we want to support them, but we really want to supplement it. And so that's where our place comes.
Yeah, because I know you guys have incredible facilities, and I know collaboration is a huge part of Lincoln Electric and your model. How does that You touched a little bit on the community college. Do you guys partnership a lot with them, or do you kinda just, like you said, supplement them?
Yeah, so we partner a lot
Okay,
with the whole, especially that technical college, community college type space. We've over the years done everything from develop curriculum for them, and not just individuals locally here in Cleveland, but also nationally. So we
okay.
do a
Yeah.
lot of work trying to really push our level of knowledge out to those instructors and those schools. We offer a program called No Teacher Left Behind, where a teacher have to pay for their own travel, but other than that, there's no cost for them to upskill their learning as well.
Mm.
So they're able to go through a 1 week course, and if they're not familiar with a certain process or they want to get better at a certain process, we offer that for them to come back to Cleveland, and it's really a no cost or low cost type option for them. So we're constantly doing things like that to drive further engagement.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Yeah, to be able to offer that kinda support to the teachers out there. So you guys are actually collaborating and coming up with curriculum designs for various trade schools and community colleges?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's probably the largest ask we get is, hey, we're starting a new school. Where do we start? What
Yeah,
what do we start with? Where do we
yeah.
go? And then we work with schools as well. And when they're building a new school, what size booth do I need? What machines are the right machines? Some of the very basic stuff that you may not think about. You have an administrator comes in and says, I want to open a new weld school. What do I do? And we walk them through it and kind of share best practices. And part of that is understanding what are they training for? Are they training for an industry like you're in, John? Are they training for an industry in the automotive space, right? The two very different industries that have different skill sets for. So
Yeah. So that kind of brings us, we got training, we got education, that's one piece of the equation, but the other piece is technology. So where is welding technology heading in automation from your perspective?
it um it is changing rapidly, is what I would say, and I think we're really at the beginning of a renaissance when you look at the automation. There's things like machine learning and AI. These are all kind of buzzwords out in the industry, but I would tell you we are at the ramp up to massive expansion in this space. Previously, when you looked at those types of technologies, they were only able to be integrated into that, again, automotive or that repetitive type of work. We're quickly seeing investments using stuff like AI, using other types of tools that really allow for all businesses and job shops and people to start getting into that space. Um, we have a saying here at Lincoln that the actual is limited, but the possible is immense. And it's kind of a cool saying. It's a little bit, a tongue twister, but you start thinking about that in the realm of automation, and it's something that you really think about where we're going. And it's amazing how fast it's changing. But I expect to see a massive growth in that technology over the next few years.
Yeah, and I see you guys always are. You guys got a fine balance between automation and craftsmanship as you kind of balance those two. What are you seeing from small to medium sized shops? Are they adopting these solutions, or are you seeing it more from the larger companies out there right now
Yeah, we're
buying
really
these
seeing it.
solutions?
Yeah, John. So we're really seeing it across the board, right? And I would tell you the bigger piece that we're starting to see from the small shops is not necessarily yeah, replacing that craftsman. They still need that craftsman or that high trade person. What they're getting rid of is the mundane work. So they're automating the stuff that the craftsman doesn't want to do. Doesn't have the ability to do. So in the past, where you've been able to hire 5 or 6 different employees, and a couple would do the mundane and a couple would do the high technical work. That's become a challenge. So we're seeing people start automating or offsetting some of that mundane and repetitive work with technology. Things like collaborative robots is a very hot topic in the last couple of years. That's something that from a price point standpoint and ROI standpoint, small businesses can get very much involved in, and it takes off a lot of that mundane work that you don't have that craftsman anymore tied up doing. So you can have them really doing something to make money for the company.
I gotcha. So, what new skills do you think these welders are going to need to thrive?
Yeah, so I think the when you start looking at that skill set, I think it still comes back to the very basics of understanding welding. When you look at programming a cobot, programming an automated solution, you still need to understand things like torch angle, contact tip to work distance, amps and volts. There's no magic solution that's going to ever get that necessarily away. So I think still having that baseline craftsman understanding is going to be needed. Um, but I do think developing a skill set of understanding the technology and how it can be utilized. Where else in your facility can we utilize this? What other jobs? That's one of the differences between I see really successful businesses and less successful businesses in implementing this is they find ways to continue to use that technology and implement it in more than just where the one place they purchased it for.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I definitely know automation is kind of changing the definition of a welder in the old way of thinking of a welder.
Yeah.
So we're enjoying seeing that process with a lot of our folks. They're getting a little bit more excited with more CNC automation, and you kind of see that fire in their eyes, which is great when you bring in some orbital welding or some other process to the floor. So it's very cool. So automation ties real close to sustainability and efficiency. Uh, I know these are areas where Lincoln Electric has been investing heavily. What innovations have you guys been making to reduce heat input, minimize spatter, improve energy efficiency, or make welding more sustainable?
Yeah. So
And I threw a
the
lot at you there.
oh, yeah. There's a it's a long conversation we could go down, but
Yes.
I'll highlight a few topics for you. You know, I think Lincoln's always been on the cutting edge, really, for the last 15, 20 years in this space, and I think we're going to continue to be there. And a lot of that's through what we call waveform control. So as you kind of again, we talked about kind of the ever changing automation, but I'll maybe go a step back you know, in the transition from transformer rectifier machines to inverter machines. And, you know, I'm sure you remember that. You may even have still a few transformers in your shop. As we made that transition, that's allowed for a lot of software style development, not necessarily hardware, but software. And part of that software development has allowed for us to do things with the arc. So with that actual puddle and that weld arc to allow for us to minimize those things. So what you're seeing a lot of in both the industry, but within Lincoln is refinement. What I would call it. So making a arc for exactly the operation that you're trying to complete. And so you think about go back again 30, 40 years ago, you used a basic, let's say, CV process, and it was amps and volts. That was it. Wire feet speed and volts and amps. There was no other refinement. Now we go and do that same weld, and it's a stainless with a certain diameter wire that's on a certain size plate, and we have a refined waveform for exactly what you're trying to do. Ultimately, that allows for less spatter, less cleanup, less fume potentially. So lots of innovation around that. I think there's going to be continued innovation there. I think you're going to see also further innovation in the data space as well. And you know, I'm sure we're going to head down that path as well. But data is another piece that's helping us make these decisions, right? And make us weld shop relied on a welder and a transformer. Now we're making database decisions.
Oh, yeah.
So
We're living in the world of data. I mean, people want more and more data. So when you're talking about welding, what are the most critical data points that you guys are trying to capture right now?
yeah, so it's funny, and it's going to come down to some really basic things for us. We're capturing hundreds and hundreds of data points, but when we talk with our customers, when we talk with people like you, John, it really comes down to really two or three different ones. The first one is arc time. How often are we actually welding? We've run a training class around productivity, welding productivity. And the first thing we do when we train our customers on this, we ask them, um, how much operating factor you have in your business. How often are your people actually welding? And the numbers come in all over the place. And in general, we find it's somewhere around 10 to 20% in most weld shops, which sounds really low, and it is. But then you think about all the other operations people have to do. So that is the number one thing that we see our customers wanting is they just want to know what's my baseline, where am I starting, and how do we work to improve that way that craftsman, that tradesman is working more, and that way we can substitute maybe other tradesmen where we're not tying up a welder to do something that is not welding or not their trade. So that's the number one thing. We're seeing a lot of push towards quality metrics as well. So again, that ties right into non-value add, where you would have somebody not doing their job or not doing the operation you would like them to do. So everything from quality, did we do what we say we were going to do um, in terms of welding? So those are really the two big things that we see in the data world. Uh,
Yeah, arc time's huge. I mean, that's when you're making money. When
Absolutely.
when you're welding, that's when you're making money. So if you can improve that arc time percentage for an individual's day is tremendous. So I guess that kind of, data. Now we start talking about AI, machine learning, that's showing up all over the place. What does that look like for welding?
Yes, that goes right back to some of the early conversation we had, right? Where I think you're going to see, especially in the automation space, a huge push down this path of AI and machine learning. You have the processes built in. I think it's going to eventually flow into that semi-automatic or manual welder. But in the next few years, you're starting to see it. If you were at FabTech or anybody was walking around any of these large shows over the last couple of years, you're seeing a ton of data collection, which is ultimately feeding machine learning, AI, predictive type of algorithms. So whether that's predictive quality or predictive joint prep or welding prep. Um, you're seeing a ton of work in that space, and I think we're going to see that really accelerate as well over the next couple of years. AI is going to both change our space in manufacturing, and I think the big piece that I see from it is it's really going to drive us to make better and faster decisions. Where with previously we'd weld something out, and I'm sure you've done this 100 times, Sean, where you weld out a whole vessel and then you gotta cut a bunch of it out because there was a
I'd,
mistake.
lo- I'd love to say we never have done that before, but that would
Right,
be lying. So
right.
yes, we've been down that road.
And it happens, right? It
Yeah,
happens in every manufacturer,
mistakes
and
are going to happen. Yeah,
right, it's a mistake, and, it's nobody's necessarily fault, but, well, what if we could stop it, you know, 1 minute after the mistake happened instead of 2 days after the mistake happened? I think those are the types of things that are really gonna drive our industry forward, and I think, Lincoln's working heavily on this space, and I think others that we partner with are heavily working on this as well.
yeah. We hear the term smart welding thrown around a lot. Can you give us that proper definition of smart welding?
Yeah, I think everybody has their own version of that.
Okay.
But, I think a smart welder or smart welding really ties back to, a welder that has all that data built into it, right? So it's providing you that data, it's providing you that, that feedback loop that you
Hmm.
know what's happening. So think of it almost more as a computer that welds versus a welder that has, computing in it. So there's a lot of that data feedback. So that's typically how we define it. It is ultimately that creating that feedback loop for the owner, for the shop foreman, for the business that is tied to welding.
Yeah. Now, how close do you think that we are to AI driven weld feedback
Um, I think we're close. I mean, we're on the cusp
on
of
the?
it. And I think you're going to
Okay.
start. Especially, like I said, in that automation space, I think you're starting to see, there's a couple companies showcasing some stuff. Lincoln was showcasing at FabTech this year, some technology. Whether it's true AI versus kind of algorithm driven, I think that's probably some of the debate that has to happen. But ultimately, there's a lot of people promoting and then really at the cusp of doing the automated welding where it could potentially scan a joint and program it and flag if there's an issue. We're working with a few different companies that are pairing cameras with our weld data with sound to do kind of real live quality um, checks, which is just when I think back when I started, that's crazy, right? It's
Yeah.
a life changing difference.
Yeah.
So so I think we're at the cusp. I think in the next, couple years, we're gonna start seeing, some of this go live, and I think we're really gonna, see certain industries lead the way for sure. But I think that's one of the things that is gonna really drive all of welding and all of fabrication in the US forward.
Yeah. Now, in your opinion, do you feel like this AI driven feedback loop, is it going to be replacing some human skill, or do you think it's going to be enhancing the human skill
So yeah, in my opinion, I think it's gonna enhance. So, if you look at all the data, whether it's AWS or any of these other third-party industries that are looking at jobs and looking at, trades, we're behind, on all of them. in terms of training people and people wanting to go into those roles, right? And we have a population, you got the baby boomers retiring and you got not enough kids coming forward. So I think AI is going to really supplement. We're still going to need the trade. We're still going to need that craftsman to do the work. I think we're just going to use things like AI and technology to make their job easier, better, and more productive. I think we're going to see that in our business uh, very quickly. And I think we're already starting to see that in our businesses.
And I know you guys have gotten pretty heavy into the immersive training sector there. What do you see virtual reality, augmented reality, or other immersive technology playing as a role in welding education?
Yeah, so I mean that's we've really, as you said, we've been in augmented and virtual reality for again almost probably 15, 20 years, and that technology continues to get cheaper and evolve and get better. I actually think it's going to start transitioning potentially into shop life, right? Production life. So before that was always a training aid. Where I start seeing it potentially moving is you think about, in your cars now, you have heads up displays, you have all these other kind of warning signs. I think those are the types of things we're going to start seeing in the industry, where, you could project onto a pressure vessel, cut here, weld here, you project your drawings onto it. We're starting to see that already. We're starting to see those types of technologies. And I think we're going to see that in the welding space too. Whether it's a heads-up display in a welding helmet, whether it's on a gun, a welding gun, some sort of indicator that maybe you're not, have the right angles. I think we're going to see those types of technologies, especially as the industry calls for them.
Okay. So VR is pretty effective compared to live arc time?
Yeah, so we treat it as a supplement. You're
Yep.
never going to replace live arc. I mean,
Right.
and that's both an opinion, but also a reality from what I've seen in both my career and working with instructors. Um, you got to put a hood on. You got to get in a booth. You got to get sweaty and weld, right? Um, what we found is VR is a great way of supplementing, great way of potentially even speeding up training. Um, if used properly. So it's one of these things where it gives you better one-to-one type feedback. I think we all know that most people learn better if they get constant feedback. They get constant reminders of how to do something better. And the virtual reality systems allow for that. Whereas you go to a trade school, and you may have 1 to 5 type of ratio for a trainer versus a student, or maybe 1 to 10. So you're not getting as much repetitive feedback. So that's where it's been really effective, especially taking somebody right off the street or right off of another profession and getting them into welding is to really get them excited about it, but also get them some of those basic skill sets built out.
Yeah, so do you feel that students are a little more engaged when the training feels like simulation or gaming? Is that safe
Absolutely.
to say?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that a good entry point? Is that why VR is so successful?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Especially, I think when you say safe, again, it takes away some of that leaf of what welding is. So when you gamify it, everything, especially for the younger generation, gets really into it, gets really excited about it. Um, but it also, like I said, makes it feel safe for them. Makes it feel like it's something they can do without catching on fire or
Right.
something. I mean,
Right.
yeah, not that that's happening, but in their minds, that's what they think is going to happen, right?
Now, what do you think this next gen of immersive learning will look like?
Yeah, I
Any
mean,
thoughts there?
yeah, so I mean, we're doing some development work now, and I think one of the big things that we're really driving to is less, I'll call it back and forth, right? Right now, there's a lot of back and forth between the booth and to the classroom, and just this constant, movement of, okay, we're gonna write on a whiteboard, teach you what to do. Then we're gonna do it on virtuality. Then we're gonna do it in the booth. I think we're trying to start pull that all together so that you just spend more time in a booth. I think when it all comes down to it, whether it's virtual reality or immersive or live arc, you just need to spend time, right? I don't care what, whether it's hitting a baseball, whether it's driving a car, whether it's
Practice makes perfect, right?
right?
Yeah.
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 And so that's one of the focuses that we've had over the last couple of years is how do we get more practice, right? If you're in school for 8 hours, how do we get more? And but not overwhelm them, right? Not not treat it like they're working in a sweatshop, right? You want them to be immersed. You want them to really enjoy it, but we would need to get more art time. We need to get more tied in with virtual, more repetitive reps. So
Yeah. No, that's great. Let's zoom out a little bit and talk about some of the big challenges that we're going to face with the welding and skilled trades industry, and what we must overcome in the next 5 to 10 years. What's your opinion with where things are going with that challenge? Is it the perception, the skill set? What's your thoughts there?
yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of twofold that I think needs to be addressed. I think there's huge perception. I'll speak from my career and my growing up. I 39 years old. I never thought I'd be in the welding industry when I was going through engineering school and would do it no different. I love it. I'm happy to be a part of it. Um, but when I was going through school, it was very clear that you don't go into trades. That was, from my grandfather was a tradesman. My both grandfathers worked in the trades, but it was kind of the better life, right? Everybody wanted to step up into a white collar job. I think we are starting to see a renaissance. I think we are starting to see that reset when you start talking about the ROI of a college degree and some of those types of things. So that's positive. I still think we're going to challenge with a just a general population problem, right? You start looking at stuff like onshoring, some of these buzz things in the news, and it's happening. We're seeing
Yeah.
companies open massive facilities
Yes.
of amounts of investments, which is really exciting. But part of that is we got to develop the people to support that and help fill that facility with the trades and all the other industries that need to be part of that. So that's I think going to be a challenge where you kind of have a declining population in terms of wanting to do the roles, but increasing demand. So you have a little bit of that challenge. I think the other challenge that's going to play out, and I think that may play out just naturally, is this pay structure. I think that's one of the other challenges for some of the trades is pay is lagged a little bit when
Mhm.
you look at what else you can do. So pay to be a welder is a very good profession. You make good money. You have to go to school, you have to maintain certificates versus I can go work in a warehouse and drive a tow truck and make about the same amount of money. And by the way, the warehouse might be air conditioned. It might have little different benefits, different options. So I think that's going to take care of itself as you start seeing this increased demand. But those are two things that I see in the industry. We got to continue to get more people interested. And then two, I think from a pay structure, money talks. And that's ultimately what's going to drive people wanting to be in it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I was talking with some folks earlier. We've got a lot of individuals that make over six figures, but stepping into the trades, you're not going to make a ton of money, but you're not going to take on any debt. And so getting that perception corrected for folks knowing, okay, I don't have to go get that college degree. I don't need to take on that college debt because after that 4 year period, I'm going to be making as much as, if not more than a college grad coming out of school, but with zero debt. And, we keep trying to talk that talk and pass that along because we got a lot of individuals that have a phenomenal career in welding and in fitting, especially with us. If you get to that lead fitter role, I mean, you're doing pretty darn good for yourself and your family, which is phenomenal. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think we're seeing that universally, I would say, right? And that's why I say it kinda takes care of itself, but we gotta re-educate. That's really a
Yes.
re-education piece, and that starts early, and that starts with the parents, that starts at a very early age.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Now, looking forward Future outlook for Lincoln. I know you guys have positioned yourself really well. You're tied in with a lot of different industries, infrastructure, renewable energy, electrification, where welding plays critical roles across the board. How is Lincoln Electric really looking at the next 5 to 10 years? Are there certain sectors they're looking at harder than others? What's your take?
Yeah, so Lincoln is exposed in a positive manner to just about everything, like you said, John. Right? We're anything that's metal, anything that's put together, even things you don't think of, tie in to it. Right? So, um, you think about your industry. You guys obviously a core competency is welding, which ultimately ties into chemicals and oil and other different pieces of plastics. Right? That have nothing to do with metal, nothing to do with welding. So we got exposure really across the whole industry in all industries. I think we're really well positioned, but also really excited about some of this growing technology. So we've got really some cool solutions for EV, like you mentioned. So as that transition, whether it speeds up, slows down, but that transition to the EV car market is a different way of assembling cars, different way of building cars than we're traditionally combustible. So we've developed some solutions for that. The other space that we're investing very heavily in is really kind of a two very different pieces of our business. Really, one's around the government. So we're seeing a large amount of investment from defense spending to infrastructure, as you mentioned. So really focusing on that. It's a different way of doing business. If you've ever done business with the government or with subsidiaries to the government, but it's something we're putting a lot of focus on. We think for the next many years to come, we're going to see that type of investment somehow tied back to the states and to the federal government, where whether it's defense, whether it's infrastructure, and then I think you're also going to see, there's some new technology that we're starting to roll out that I think you maybe saw some of when you were here, John, was additive, so 3D printing. That's a emerging technology, and Lincoln's at the front end, and so we're using our expertise and our full supply chain to really build out kind of a one of a kind solution where we're starting to build parts for people. So where we traditionally just supplied to customers or like yourself that used welding products, we're now starting to build whether it's casting replacements or forging replacements or even just quick turnaround type stuff where we're able to print parts that are maybe anywhere from about 50 pounds to a couple thousand pounds, uh, which is pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah, very.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really neat stuff. So that's an emerging technology that I think the world needs and is continuing to grow. And kind of not to bring things back to past questions, but I think you start looking at how do we move the industry forward. I think it's through technology like that that allows us to be more efficient, not rely on other countries, not rely on others. It allows us in the U.S. to continue to invest and grow.
that's great. So, out of all the partnerships, technologies, sectors we just talked about, which one excites you the most over the next decade?
That's a tough question. I have a large background in defense.
Mhm.
So I'm very passionate and I'm excited to see where we're going. You look at the investments we're putting into, submarines, into a lot of our other defense space. So probably that's the most exciting for me personally, with my background, with the technology that I know there, bring back an industry that has kind of died in the U.S. You see a lot of investments from some of the Korean and Asian shipyards coming to the U.S. That is exciting to me. Where I spent a lot of my career going to places that once were. Now they're starting to become players in the world space again. So that's really exciting here in the U.S. And then from a technology standpoint, it's got to be the additive piece. Yeah, the additive piece is just absolutely, it's a game changer from where we think we could have ever been. We see a finished part that's about 4 or 5,000 pounds that started as nothing, and it was 2 weeks later. It's really cool.
That's great. That's great. So fast forward 10 years for me, and what does the future welder look like?
Future welder.
Because things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
And with AI, I mean, we're exponentially seeing change right now. So I'm curious what you think this future welder is going to look like 10 years from now.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be a future welder that has, I think they're gonna look a lot more like a white collar job, actually. I
Mhm.
think that person is going to be, um, very tied in with the technology. Is probably the better way to put it. I think you're going to see them. You think about somebody in your finance department that's tied in with Excel. I think that's kind of the type of relationship we're going to have with uh, machine, the melting or the equipment, and the welder. So that welder is gonna kinda know that technology inside and out. I think they're gonna be able to manipulate that technology depending on the job. Right now, it's that craftsman style where they're manipulating themselves or their position. So I think we're gonna see a little bit of a shift where the technology is gonna not have to be change the person. The person's gonna be able to use technology to change.
There you go. Yeah. I appreciate your insight there. That's great. Well, listen, Andy, love the conversation today. Do you have anything you want to drop on us? One last comment, insight, knowledge? We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, no, this has been great, John, and I really appreciate you having me on and spend some time. You and I have had a long relationship, and it's been a
Yeah.
pleasure. So, um, yeah, I think the big thing from me here at Lincoln is really just I think you're going to see a lot of advancements over the next few years, and I keep saying that, but I'm really kind of bullish on where the industry's going, and the next things. And I said it earlier, but we kind of gonna have a saying here that one of our founders had, which is, the actual is or the actual is limited, but the possible is immense. And that saying is again kind of true to me when I think about where our industry's headed. So again, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And I'm really excited for what's to come over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I am too. And appreciate all the time today. Great conversation. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Right on.
Sean.
Yep. Thanks for joining us on Forged in Focus. Lincoln Electric continues to show how innovation, education, and craftsmanship can come together to power the next generation of skilled trades. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a colleague, and check out Lincoln Electric's training and education programs online. Let's keep the momentum going. Until next time, I'm John Ward. Stay strong, stay focused, and keep forging ahead.